Bhagavatam. We are reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. We are on Canto 2. Canto 2 is called the first step in God realization. And we are on text 23 today. But we start with Mangalacharan. Would anybody like to do the Mangalacharan? Okay, I'll do it since I haven't done it since a long, long time. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadhamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathan Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Pre Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Hare Krishna
Hare Krishna, Krishna
Krishna Hare
Hare Hare Rama,
Hare Rama
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 Rama, Hare Hare. Jai, Hari Hari Bol. So here we are now on a continuation of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 1, the first step in God realization. Today we're doing text 23. So Shukadeva Goswami is speaking, and the verse is Jita Sano Jita Swaso Jita Sango Jitendriyaha Stule Bhagavato Rupe Manasandara Sri Sukha Uvacha, Sukadeva Goswami said, Jita Asanaha, controlled sitting posture. Jita Svaha, controlled breathing process. Jita Sangha, controlled association. Jita Indriya, controlled senses. Stule, in the gross matter. Bhagavata, unto the personality of Godhead. Rupe, in the feature of. Manaha, the mind. Sandarayat, must apply. Diya, by intelligence. Translation. Shukadeva Goswami answered, one should control the sitting posture, regulate the breathing process by the yogic pranayam, and thus control the mind and senses, and with intelligence apply the mind to the gross potencies of the Lord called the Virat Rupa. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. The materially absorbed mind of the conditioned soul does not allow him to transcend the limit of the bodily conception of life. And thus the yoga system for meditation, controlling the sitting posture and breathing process and fixing the mind upon the Supreme, is prescribed in order to mold the character of the gross materialist. Unless such materialists are able to cleanse the materially absorbed mind, it is impossible for them to concentrate upon thoughts of transcendence. And to do so, one may fix one's mind on a gross material or external feature of the Lord. The different parts of the gigantic form of the Lord are described in the following verses. The materialistic men are very anxious to have some mystic powers as a result of such a controlling process. But the real purpose of yogic regulations is to eradicate the accumulated dirty things like lust, anger, avarice, and all such material contaminations. If the mystic yogi is diverted by the accompanying feats of mystic control, then his mission of yogic process is a failure, because the ultimate aim is God realization. He is therefore recommended to fix his gross materialistic mind by a different conception and thus realize the potency of the Lord. As soon as the potencies are understood to be instrumental manifestations of the transcendence, one automatically advances to the next step. And gradually, the stage of full realization becomes possible for him. Omagana Timidandasya Ganangana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militantina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So there's a lot in the purport, a lot of technical stuff here. And as Kirtika Mataji pointed out, when we started the second canto does tend to be technical. And it's technical for a reason, because it's giving us the idea that we're going into a different mindset when we're entering the stage of Bhakti Yoga. It's different from Hatha Yoga. Of course, here, as for the most part, these few verses are describing the process of Hatha Yoga. And we haven't yet reached the stage of delving into the intricacies or the details of Bhakti Yoga, which in one sense, of course, is the simplest form of yoga. In another sense, it's the deepest and in some ways the most complex. But of course, the process is easy. The more we go along, the process becomes easier. In the beginning, it's to change our mind, to change our consciousness, to change the direction in which our consciousness has gone up to now. And in this process of advancing in Krishna consciousness, like up to now means for the last billion or whatever lifetimes that we've gone through to reach this process of reaching the human form of life for the umpteenth time, countless millions of times within those billions of processes we've been in the human form of life. But now we have reached the stage where we have come in touch with a pure devotee. We've come in touch with the teachings of the Gaudiya Vaishnav line. We've come in touch with the teachings of Srila Prabhupada. We're on the path. We're going in the right direction. So why is it called the first step in God realization? And yet it appears to be so complex, because what we've gone through has been so many complexities. So as to help us to understand, those of us who have the questions, we have to understand Maharaj Parikshit is going through this process of asking questions. Shukadeva Goswami is giving answers. It's an exchange. And we will also have an exchange as we go through all the different cantos, one after another. Like Prabhupada gives a very strong hint here in the purport, where he says, if the mystic yogi is diverted by the accompanying feats of mystic control, and those feats of mystic control, they're vast. I mean, they are huge. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, I forget who it was. Prabhupada himself was relating the same story, that there was one yogi. He was sitting in the Himalayas, and some people would come to see him when the snow would be melting, and that people could approach the Himalayas. Otherwise, the yogi was just sitting there winter, summer, and living in a cave. He didn't care, with just some copans, and he would just live all year round. But then when the snows abated somewhat, people would come And people would ask him for different favors and different this and different that. Please help me pass my exams, help me get a wife, help me get a husband, whatever the case may be. And Prabhupada said, and he related the story quite a few times, Prabhupada said that these mystic yogis, these people, they're there in India to this day. They're not only in India, all over the world. There were so many Patita Pavana Prabhu, who's staying and living with Prabhupada in Bombay in the big fight for the Bombay temple. He was one of the main characters. He now lives in Bulgaria. He's a very big astrologer. And he was relating so many things, that there are so many mystics living in Bulgaria where he lives. People who have some mystic potency. It's not only in India, but however, to get back to Prabhupada's story, these people would approach this mystic living in the Himalayas, and he could reach out and just grab a mango from some tropical region where he's living in the Himalayas covered in snow, and bring that mango right to the fore of the person who was sitting in front of him. Prabhupada said this was not extraordinary. He has seen, Prabhupada himself related how he has seen so many examples of this in his own lifetime. He personally witnessed these things. So these are not extraordinary things. So Prabhupada says, that's why Prabhupada is giving the hint in the purport. That's why we can get through the fog of all the, what would we call it, technical language that's being used in this particular canto, if we focus on the individual sections, individual sentence as we go through, and word for word, even in the purport, we can go through the word for word and analyze it. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, in a very famous lecture, which Prabhupada related to his disciples in the early days of the society, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj was talking about all the newspapers that are there in the Western world, and also in India and all over the world, and how many editions of these newspapers are produced even on a daily basis. You have the early edition, you have the afternoon edition, you have the evening edition, and you have the last edition of the same newspaper, producing nonsense, Gramya Katha, news of the marketplace and the politics of the world, and they can produce 4 or 5 or 6 or half a dozen editions of the same newspaper in a day. And how many dozens of newspapers are there in any one city? And how many cities are there? Tens of thousands. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj was saying, we can talk, we can give a lecture on one verse, one word of the Bhagavatam for months on end without cessation, because there's so much there in each and every single word, every syllable. That's why Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said every single syllable in the Maha Mantra contains the unbelievably unlimited nectar we can't even begin to appreciate. Lord Chaitanya himself said, I cannot begin to appreciate the amount of nectar that is contained between the 2 syllables Krishna. So this is Mahaprabhu himself. So Prabhupada says in the purport, to give this hint, if the mystic yogi is diverted by the accompanying feats of mystic control, in other words, he's reached the stage of perfection where he can do practically anything. Durvasa Muni, he could travel from planet to planet. Prabhupada said in the previous verse that I did, that the so-called scholars and the so-called scientists, they're so concerned about going to the moon. But these devotees, they could travel from planet to planet, just by jumping on a bird, jumping on a swan, whatever the case may be, flying through the universe on a swan. So what's so great about their moon project? And they're concerned about going to the moon, and now they claim they've gone to the moon. Now they want to go to other places. They don't even have enough. Prabhupada was talking about the blackout. The electricity disappeared one time when Prabhupada was staying in New York. Everything ground to a halt. It was a whole blackout. Prabhupada said they don't even have enough energy to supply a city like New York. So, and they're talking about conquering other planets. These people are just, these so-called scientists are just a joke. Well, Prabhupada goes on to say the feats of mystic control, accompanying feats of mystic control, then his mission of yogic success is a failure because the ultimate aim is God realization. So no matter what degree of mystic yogic processes anybody has or anybody can conjure up, standing on one leg, walking on water, flying through the sky, Durvasa Muni going from place to place, from planet to planet, he even went to see Lord Vishnu. He went to see Lord Vishnu. And Vishnu said to him, well, sorry, I can't help you. You've offended a devotee. You have to go back and beg the mercy of the devotee. He had that degree of power. He could go and go to Vaikuntha Loka and visit Lord Vishnu. But still, because of offenses, he had to beg for the mercy of the devotee. So this is what Prabhupada is explaining here. His mission of yogic success is, and he's talking about success and failure in the same sentence, a complete contradiction. But his mission is a failure because because the ultimate aim is God realization. Like the famous yogis, Prabhupada used to relate to this story. He wouldn't name them. Of course, the famous yogis long since exposed as being nothing but cheaters, some of whom produce dust, or to give it some kind of quasi-spiritual name, they call it vibhuti, and the whole world falls at their feet. How does this compare with Durvasa Muni? The whole world falls at their feet. People put up temples and worship them in the most insane way. We even get the insane situation where people actually buy property in the hope that they'll be born in an area where these yogis are predicted to take birth in the future. I mean, where is this coming from, this stuff? And people go for this. And it's not only in India, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. Prabhupada exposed these charlatans for what they are, for exactly who they are. Prabhupada said, we're living in a society of cheaters and cheated. And that's exactly what it is. And why are we being so harsh? Why say these really strong words? We're not out to condemn anybody. But the fact remains is this human form of life is one. It's now, it's here, it's valuable, it's an asset. And if we just, frivolously just throw it away, pursuing these other charlatans and cheaters, it's gone. And then what's the end? The end of your life? You got some vibhuti in a little box. You're going to put it on your head or eat it. And that's it. That's the goal. That's your realization after all of this. Not only in India, everywhere. Everywhere we meet people like this. How many charlatans are claiming to be Jesus? In the Christian world, we had the recent famous case in India. You all know about it. Even when I was there, it was still going on. The court case was going on. Hundreds, not talking about one or two people who are fooled, hundreds of seemingly sane, rational adults fasted to death because their supposed incarnation of Jesus told them to do so. I mean, where is this coming from? And it's not only them. We can point the finger at them. Oh, they're Christians, they're Jews, or they're Muslims, and they don't know. No, it's everywhere. It's all over the world. So their so-called incarnation that they were all fasting for and following his advice of their so-called guru, he's still alive. He may be in prison, but he's still alive. He didn't fast to death. He didn't follow his own advice. So it's everywhere we get. People are completely mad. They're mad after pratishta, name and fame, the desire for profit, adoration, and distinction. This is the problem. That's why it's absolutely essential that we follow the instructions of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. We have to have some foundation, some base, some rock upon which we can build our faith and build our devotional creeper. Who did Jesus give his chariotship to? when he was getting ready to leave. He knew he could predict the future. He's a pure devotee. He was saying, so now I'm going to be leaving soon. And he appointed Peter. That's why we have in Rome, the head of the Catholic Church, the biggest building in Rome is called St. Peter's. And what does Peter mean? Peter comes from the Greek word Petros, Petra, rock. Thou art Peter, Jesus said, and upon this rock I will build my church. So a rock, a mountain, is immovable. So the foundation has to be immovable, not that it's changing from fashion to fashion, from lifetime to lifetime. Prabhupada says, no, these instructions were first spoken to the sun god Vivasvan. And he in turn passed it to Ikshvaku, and Ikshvaku passed it to Manu. So it hasn't changed. It's not that we changed the philosophy for the fashion. And then today it's the philosophy, and tomorrow we deal with something else. No, it's immeasurable. It goes through time. There's nothing, time I am, the destroyer of all these worlds. So we don't want no speculation. Speculation is simply out. It's not a sentimental philosophy. As we say so many times, it's based on reality. And ultimately, it's the only reality. The philosophy we follow is the ultimate, only reality. Everything else is completely and totally and utterly a waste of time. A complete waste of time. We may resist the philosophy because of our attachment to whatever society has taught us, whatever we've grown up to believe or accept out of sentiment in our culture according to our birth. I have also my own attachments to my own society, my own culture that I grew up in Ireland that hold value to me and my friends and family. Of course, they're there. But we have to analyze this culture. We have to analyze our background. We have to analyze, the whole society in which we grew up in which we came from. Whether it's, east, west, north, or south, that's irrelevant. The title of the religion into which we are born is completely irrelevant. Prabhupada says, Lord Chaitanya said, I'm not a Brahmin, I'm not a Kshatriya, I'm not a Vaishya, I'm not a Sudra. I'm not any of these things. Gopi Bharta Kamalayor, Dasanu, Dasanu, Das. I'm the servant of the servant of the servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I am just the servant. This is what Prabhupada said, just like he gave the example of the dog. A dog is completely lost unless he has a master. Without a master, what can a dog do? He can't do anything. He may be a big dog, he may be strong, he may be growling, he may be barking, maybe this, that, and the other. He may be a thoroughbred, but if he doesn't have a master, he's gone. Prabhupada said, we are Krishna's dog. That's why we wear the Kanti Mala. We're like the dog wears a collar. We also wear a collar. Because that's our identity. That may not now be rightly revealed to us, but in time, as we go through the process, it will. But we can't be sentimental about it. We're in dire straits. We are in dire straits. Padam padam yadvi padam natesham. The material world is danger at every step. And that's a fact. And it's not only the physical danger of, the thought of losing life and limb. That's the danger. That it certainly is a danger. That is there. But there's also the ultimate danger of losing the soul. That's such a loss, such a loss. And this human form of life is so valuable. Srila Prabhupada always instructed us to see everything through the eyes of Shastra. Shastra Chakshus. We've cheated since time immemorial. That will always be the state. I mean, we can even go as high as, forgive me here, I'm not criticizing, I'm just saying that these are the facts. We can even go as high as personalities like Shankaracharya, who's none other than Lord Shiva himself, who introduced the Mayavad philosophy on life. He was instructed to bring people back. We can go higher still and go to the incarnation of Lord Vishnu, Lord Buddha. Lord Buddha. He's one of the Das avatars. We reject his philosophy outright. Wherever Lord Chaitanya went, especially in his travels in South India, he was attacked by the Buddhists and the Jains. He always defeated them. He always defeated all the sannyasis, the Mayavadi sannyasis that he met, and they became his followers. How can you criticize Lord Chaitanya? How can you criticize Shankaracharya? It's impossible. Nobody in their right mind would think of doing such a thing. What to speak of Lord Buddha, who's an incarnation of Vishnu himself. So we can't be sentimental. Oh, we follow this, we follow that. It's my tradition. It was like that in my village when I was growing up, and this is my religion, and blah, 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 blah. Fine. If that's what is going to lead you back to Godhead, fine, stick with it. By all means, stick with it. But if it's just out of some sentimental attachment to something that we grew up with or we were born into, then we have to see it for what it is. Prabhupada said, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj said, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, we can gain the absolute truth through any of the religions. The religion is not the important thing. If your religion is going to help you to develop love of God, stick with it. Stick with it by all means. So we're not negating or rejecting any religion. But we don't want to be sentimental. That's the thing. Sentimental. I've used that expression before. 100% mental. We want to be fixed in philosophy, fixed on the path of Krishna consciousness. In the final analysis, we should recall the words of none other than Shankaracharya himself. What were his words? Everybody knows them. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Mudha Mate. Samprapte sanite kale nahi nahi rakshati. This is Shankaracharya. After giving out all his Mayavadi stuff, but at least he brought people back to the Vedic concept of life, away from the instructions of Lord Buddha, who rejected the Vedic concept. How can the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself reject the Vedas? That's why we don't follow him. For a purpose. So there was always a purpose. There was always a plan. There was always a higher instruction. There was always a higher need. But then we stand back and we see, okay, what is that need? What is that instruction? What is the plan? What is the objective? What is the goal? We have to be analytical. And if we are, we'll reach the goal. So what is that? What is that verse? Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam. Worship Govinda, worship Govinda, worship Govinda. Oh fool, Mudha Mate. Rules of grammar will not save you at the time of death. So rules and regulations are there. They're there for a purpose, but we don't fanatically follow rules and regulations just for the sake of following. We follow for a higher purpose. So we have to see that. We have to go beyond the pedantic way and the route in which we try to follow, and reach beyond that and go for the heart. We go for the heart. From the Nectar of Instruction, we learn from the famous first verse of the Nectar of Instruction exactly what the qualifications for going for the heart are. What are the qualifications for somebody to which we should actually follow? And we have to know what is the difference between somebody who's bona fide and somebody who's not. Without adulteration, without modification, without speculation. So what is that verse? Vacho vegam, manasa krodha vegam, jiva vegam, abdapasta vegam. So this is the verse. This is the qualification. Apart from Trinada Pisa Nityana Tarora Pisa Hishnuna, Amanina Manidena Kadanya Sadahari, we also need to imbibe this verse. Take it in. The first verse, a sober person who can tolerate the urge to speak, the mind's demands, the actions of anger, and the urges of the tongue, belly, and genitals, is qualified to make disciples all over the world. The tongue. It starts with the tongue. And if we can control the tongue, control what we eat, control what we speak, control what we say, everything else falls into place. You switch on, we've got this so-called cable TV with 10 trillion channels on it, and every one of them is just Gramya Katha. It's just the talk of the marketplace. It is absolutely nothing. Like the Tower of Babel, people are just babbling on and on and on and on, and they have no conclusion, no solution, no resolution, nothing. There's nothing there, absolutely nothing. It's empty. It may appear to have substance, but there's no substance. None whatsoever. It's all form. There's a difference between form and substance. And we have to go for the substance, not just go for the illusion, go for the mirage in the desert. Like you see water everywhere you go in the desert. Your mind is focused on water, and everywhere you go, mirage is there. Oh, there's water over there, and you run for a mile over there, and there's more sand. It's all in the mind. In the purport to that Vacho Vegam Manasakroda Vegam, Prabhupada says, Parikshit Maharaj placed a number of intelligent questions before Shukadeva Goswami. One of these questions was, why do people undergo atonement if they cannot control their senses? What is the point? And he gives the example, the famous example of the bathing of the elephant. The elephant is bathing and then goes in the water and takes his bath. And what does he do as soon as he comes out? Puts the dust on his head. So if that's what we're doing when we go to the temple or the mosque or the church, just engage in atonement, then what is the point? Experience is gathered by hearing and seeing. One who was less intelligent gathers experience by seeing. And one who was more intelligent gathers experience by hearing. When an intelligent person hears from law books and shastras or scriptures that stealing is not good, and he hears that a thief is punished when arrested, well, what does he do? He thinks, he refrains from theft. He thinks, well, that guy stole. He went to prison. He was punished. Do I want to do that? No, of course not. But a less intelligent person may first have to be arrested and punished for stealing in order to learn to stop stealing. But then the third class one, the total idiot, may have experience of both hearing and seeing, and may even be punished. Still, he goes to prison, he comes out, and he goes and he steals again and again and again. How many, we see the statistics, so many people, I think it's like the last statistic was 60% of the prison population have been in prison before. So obviously the punishment, it doesn't work. It needs a change of consciousness. Prabhupada gave a lecture in a big prison in Delhi, and he preached exactly like this. It needs a change of consciousness. He didn't go there to pacify the prisoners. Oh, it's so sad, you're here in the prison, and polisana and all that kind of stuff. No, he gave the Siddhanta, he gave the conclusion. It needs a change of consciousness. So even if somebody atones and by the government, he'll again commit theft, and as soon as he becomes out of jail, back in again. So the only way is to engage in the chanting. But then there's another catch. There's always a catch. And what is is like the bathing of the elephant. Many spiritual practitioners, Prabhupada says, in another purport, they chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra either as professional reciters or kirtaniers or whatever the case may be. But then they're thinking that their chanting will counteract any offenses. But this is the worst offense. Of the 10 types of offenses, this is the worst. Chanting the holy names of the Lord on the strength of chanting that we think that will all our offenses will be obliterated. Committing sinful activities on the strength of chanting, no, it doesn't work. Just like the Prabhupada gives the example of the Christians, they go to church on Saturday and they confess, and then on Sunday they go back out again and engage in their nonsense. So what's the point? The bathing of an elephant, the atonement, it's gone. My grandmother used to say, eaten bread is soon forgotten. You're forgiven, and then it's all gone. So it's a waste of time. Real atonement involves coming to real knowledge under the direction of a bona fide spiritual master. This easy process is being recommended by Rupa Goswami. Under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. This is what it comes down to. And then what is the bona fide spiritual master? Trinadapi Sunichina, Vachovegam, Manasakrodavegam. Okay. So it's absolutely essential that we know what is the Siddhanta, what is the truth, what is the Tattva. We can't be sentimental about it. This is our chance. We're like a drowning man that has been thrown into the ocean and they were grabbing at straws. The whole material cosmic manifestation is like a straw. A drowning man grabbing at a straw in the middle of the ocean. He's lost, falls off the ship overnight in the middle of the dark. The waves are carrying him away. Sees a straw, he grabs at the straw. It's a waste of time. But that's what a drowning man will do. He'd grab at anything to try to save himself. But we have this rock of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra that we can grab onto and we can hold onto for dear life and don't let it go ever. No matter what kind of a condition our mind is in, what kind of a condition our intelligence is in, it's irrelevant. Even if we're hanging on by the skin of our teeth, we hang on, no matter what. Don't ever think that we can get away and just go independently and do it by ourselves. It won't happen. It simply won't happen. We have to control the speaking power, and we have the power of speech. As soon as we get an opportunity to speak, we speak. If you don't speak about Krishna consciousness, speak about all kinds of nonsense. Just like the Prabhupada gives the example of the frog. The frog is croaking, and doing his frog business, and he thinks he's attracting a mate, looking for food, whatever the case may be. But what is he doing with his croaking business? He's simply attracting the snake. The snake is also listening. He's hearing the croaking of the frog. And ultimately, that's the demise of the frog. So we don't want to be engaged in this Gramya Katha, this croaking business, croaking like a frog. Simply inviting the snake. But this, controlling speech, it doesn't mean that we, simply engage in this mona vrata. We don't want mona vrata. This is what the Mayavadi philosophers are thinking. Silence may appear helpful for some time, but ultimately, it's a failure, a total failure, because it doesn't do anything. The meaning of controlled speech is given to us by Rupa Goswami. He advocates the process of Krishna Katha. All the Goswamis, Krishna Katha, engaging in the speaking process and glorifying the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. Krishna is just like the sun, Prabhupada says, and Maya is darkness. So if the sun is present, there's no question of darkness. There's no question of being overcome by, these modes that, just envelop us. We're all going to go through periods in our life where we're going to be influenced by the different periods according to our astrological chart, the different periods. But if we are actually seriously practiced in engaging in the process of Krishna consciousness our whole life, day in, day out, year in, year out, without failure, and just endeavoring, then even when the modes come on strong and we're seemingly overcome by the modes, we will have the strength of our practice, we'll have the strength of our sadhana to support us, and we can overcome it. And that's all we have to do. If Krishna is present in the mind, then there's no question, there's no possibility of the mind being agitated by Maya's influence. That's why Krishna says in the Gita, the mind is the best friend, the mind is the worst enemy. What do we want it to be? So it's completely and totally up to us. The yogic process of negating all material thoughts, it doesn't help. It does not help. This verse and purport is describing the mystic yogi. And that's there. But it's there it's meant for a different age. We live at most 100 years. It's just a blip. Previous yugas, people lived 1,000 years, 10,000 years, 100,000 years. Those ages are gone. We have to deal with the reality now, not deal with some utopian concept that is only present in our mind, that doesn't exist in reality. Just by negating the mind, negating the senses, it doesn't work. It just creates a vacuum. A vacuum cannot exist in nature. It cannot exist. A vacuum is always artificial. Just when you go around your house with your Hoover, it's creating a vacuum, the vacuum cleaner. But it's artificial. As soon as you unplug it, disconnect it from the electricity, the vacuum's gone. Vacuum always has to be filled. That is nature. It doesn't work in an artificial way. It won't remain. However, if one always thinks of Krishna and how to serve Krishna best, the mind will be naturally controlled. Anger can be controlled, just like Krishna was imploring Arjuna to engage his anger in the service of the Lord by going out there and fight. Armed with the weapon of yoga, stand and fight. So you can't go out into a war in a battlefield and kill somebody, by, waving a rose or a lotus flower. You need to be in the mood to do it. You have to be angry. So get out there and fight. So that we read the Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Prabhupada's beautiful translation and all the different moods of the gopis there and how they engaged all these moods, every mood you can think of, envy, hate, jealousy, all these things, but they were engaged in the service of Krishna. And every single attribute that we have in us, it's also there in the spiritual world. But it's dovetailed in the service of Krishna. We don't have to negate anything. We don't have to try to create a vacuum and just, deny the senses. It doesn't work. It does not work. In an artificial way, it's just, it's a dead duck. So we just should be ready to engage in whatever way we can, become more tolerant than a tree, as Lord Chaitanya says, more humble than the blade of grass. And then you could ask the question, why did the Lord exhibit his anger? The point is that one should be ready to tolerate all insults to oneself. But when Krishna or his pure devotee is blasphemed, a genuine devotee becomes angry and acts like fire, Prabhupada says, against the offender. That's a completely different story. A devotee is blasphemed, a pure devotee is blasphemed. Somebody blasphemes the Lord. Then we can engage in anger. Why was Krishna imploring Arjuna to get out there on the battlefield? And apart from all the atrocities that the Kauravas committed against the Pandavas, and they're insurmountable, even a tiny fraction of them is listed in the Mahabharata. Insurmountable. The ways and means in which they tried to kill the Pandavas and kill their mother and kill Draupadi. But ultimately, what caused the battle? It's the honor of Draupadi was offended. Draupadi, a pure devotee of the Lord, pure devotee of Krishna. Her honor not only as a woman, her honor as a devotee was offended. And Krishna says it has to be avenged. It has to be avenged. So we can't be just go around, just tolerate everything and yatomat tatopat. We're not like that. We're very practical. It's a very practical philosophy. We're very practical solutions to the problems of life, and it's there. And as we're going through the Bhagavatam, we'll come across all of these practical applications in our own daily life that really mean something to me as a person, not just words in a book. This is important. I have to be able to connect with the philosophy. I have to be able to relate to it. Me as a person, me as Vidura, coming from Ireland, I have to be able to relate to it just as well as you coming from Africa or India or whatever the case may be. You have to be able to relate to it for you, that it fulfills your needs. Some other devotee's needs may be fulfilled in a different way. You can't emulate another devotee. You have to follow your own path, but within the philosophy. And the philosophy is broad. Everybody is embraced. Nobody is left out. Nobody is excluded. No matter what our inclination is in life, we can engage it in the service of Krishna. So we have to act in a way that we follow Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. Prabhupada says, and the famous quote from the Bhagavatam, that literature which is full of descriptions of the transcendent glories, name, fame, forms, pastimes of the unlimited Supreme Lord, which is what we're reading every day. And thank God we have this opportunity to engage in this way every day and listen to these classes and listen to the different speakers and listen to ourselves as we are asking questions and we're getting answers. Everything is connected. Everything is related. We all have a part to play. And every single person's part is important. Nobody is higher or lower than somebody else. We're all servants of Krishna, but Gopi Bharta Kamalayor. So the verse goes on to say, the unlimited Lord is a different creation, full of transcendental words directed towards bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of this world's misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. This is it's so crucial. We can't be going into the pedantics of, there was a comma left out here, or this Goswami, he didn't quite know, the language here. And, the spiritual master of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj was illiterate. And he refused to initiate Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta went to him 2, 3, 4, 5. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, his father, sent him back again. No, you go, you beg him. You beg him. And finally, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, I'm going to throw myself off the bridge. I'm going to jump in the Ganga if you don't initiate me. Illiterate. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta is the biggest scholar known to man in history. No greater scholar. Prabhupada is his disciple. Look at what a scholarly person Srila Prabhupada is. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj was the scholar penultimate. And he took initiation from an illiterate. So it's what's in the heart. The conclusion is, only when we talk about devotional service to Supreme Personality of Godhead can we refrain from useless, nonsensical talk. We should always endeavor to use our speaking power solely for the purpose of realizing Krishna and Krishna consciousness. So, 5 to 6 or whatever it is, 5 to 9 in Kenya. So again, went a bit off track, kind of got diverted, but this is what the purport kind of said to me, and what the little message I got out of the purport. I can only speak my own little small realizations, and hopefully I can hear something from what even I say, and maybe imbibe it someday and put it into practice. But for now, that's all I have to say. If there are any questions or comments, I'd be very happy to try to answer. Thank you very much again for listening. I'm very grateful. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for this excellent class today. Are there any questions or comments from the group?
Hare Krishna,
Prabhuji, I
Prabhuji.
have,
Jai Haribo, Hari
Yes, yes.
Govinda Prabhu, Swamiji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I was just thinking when you was talking about the Kshatriyas fighting in the war field, and then it's better to fight than to for Kshatriyas it's the right. I mean, their duty is to fight. For example, now in this current situation, if one soldier is fighting for his country, like Israel or Palestine, is that considered a righteous fight or no? If he's doing his
No,
country's work.
it's all based on the body. They're not fighting for principle. Just like in the First World War, my grandfather, he fought in the First World War. Ireland was colonized by the British during the First World War, 1914, 1918. My grandfather, he fought in the Somme. He was given a shilling, 1 shilling by the king to join the army and go off and fight in the Somme while we were a colonized country. And they went off to fight for supposedly to free Belgium from the tyranny of the German Kaiser who had conquered Belgium and subjugated the poor little Belgians. Oh, let's go and help them. So, millions of people were killed in that war. The general sent all these, villagers, miners, farmers, bakers, just little kids from the village, 18, 19 years old, off in the millions to fight. 400,000 soldiers were lost in the first day of the Battle of the Somme. My grandfather was in that battle. And then in the middle of the war, in 1916, the Irish had a revolution to try and gain independence from Britain. So the British took the soldiers away from the battle in France and Belgium and brought them back to Ireland to kill the Irish, who were also fighting for their freedom. But the people from Ireland and Wales and Scotland and England, they went off to fight for the so-called freedom of the Belgians against the Germans. So it's all nonsense. It's all it's all politics. It's all politics. We can't allow ourselves to be, there's no comparison with Arjuna and the Battle of Kurukshetra. I mean, when Duryodhan, when the Pandavas were exiled in the forest, and Duryodhan was running the kingdom on behalf of his father, Dhritarashtra, he ran the kingdom to perfection. He was a perfect leader, absolutely perfect. He gave to the Brahmins, he protected the cows, he made sure all the pujas were going on, all the samskaras were being engaged in. I mean, he followed the Vedic principles to the letter. Nobody disputes that. Nobody. And he was a big disciple of Balaram. He was Balaram's favorite. But he was envious of the Pandavas. He was envious of the devotees. So there's no comparison with Israel, Palestine, the Somme, or the First World War, or Hitler, or the Germans. It's this completely different world, totally different world entirely. They're not fighting for principle. They're fighting for profit, adoration, distinction, land. I, me, and mine. Aham, mameti. It's not mine. This country, Ireland, is not mine. Kenya is not mine. It's Krishna's. So as soon as we get down to brass tacks and we recognize you're not the body, your spirit, soul, this is the cause of all the strife and problems in the world. That we're not, we are the body. So if I am the body, I am Irish, I have to kill somebody who's English. Because that's the way it is. Because I'm identifying with the body. I have to kill a Pakistani if I'm an Indian. I have to kill an Indian if I'm a Pakistani. This is the way it is. Divide and conquer. This is what Maya is expert at. We can't get ourselves engrossed in these problems of the world, because the only solution is Krishna consciousness, and they don't want to know. That's the problem. They don't want to know. I remember in the early days when I joined, the late 70s, early 80s, we would go out on the streets of London, we would chant Hare Krishna every day, and we'd be arrested every single day. Every day brought to court and fined for chanting in the so-called freedom, democracy, the mother of parliaments. All over the world. Prabhupada spent months defending the society in the courts in the state of New York. We were charged with brainwashing people simply by going out and chanting the names of the God, the names of the Lord. So we have to focus on what is the reality, what is the ultimate, what is the Shastric conclusion, and don't allow ourselves to become immersed in this so-called strife and trials and tribulations of this material world. They don't concern us. They're not our business. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, he preached to Srila Prabhupada. When Prabhupada met him first, Prabhupada gave the argument, but I'm in Gandhi's movement. I'm fighting for independence. I'm following Gandhi. I'm wearing this khadi cloth. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, he poo-pooed the idea. He said, no, this is not our business. Even the so-called independence of India, this is not our business. We're not concerned with this. Who's in control, who's not in control? Ultimately, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchitananda Vigraha Anadiradi Govinda Sarvakarna Karnam. Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All these other people, Roman Empire, Greek Empire, Napoleon Empire, British Empire. Where's the British Empire now? Look at this so-called leader of Britain running off and currying favor with this, that, and the other. I mean, he's completely lost. His name is Rishi. Where's the Rishi business? He's lost, completely lost. Not a clue. Just pick up the Bhagavad Gita and read it. Then you'll find something, you'll gain some knowledge, you'll gain some benefit. Just pick up the Gita, read the Gita, everything is there. You don't need anything else. Hari Hari Bol. Does that answer the question?
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Hare
Jai.
Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, thank you so much. We have exhausted our time, but I thought Indulekha Mataji had one question. Do you
Jai.
have 5 more minutes?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Good, nice class, deep philosophy and all, very good. You talk about the Shastric Praman. So I don't have a question, I just have a realization, if it's okay, right?
Please.
So you talk about Shastric Praman, which is great, we follow the disciplic succession in line of them. We can give evidence of what we are talking every time we say something. And we know that Lord Krishna himself imparted the knowledge to Brahma. And then it went down from Brahma to Narad, Vyas, and Vyas to Deva Goswami, and then Sutta Goswami, and then to the stages of Naimisharanya. But here we see how much it is important to have a spiritual master, right? We should guard, against those jnanis and yogis. You were talking about yogis. Prabhupada talk about yogis. What do? Right? So jnanis, they may recite the verses of Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita very eloquently. That is just like a show, a show just to get money, to get name, fame, wealth. That's what they do. And then they don't know really what the meaning of, what the purpose of. Similarly, yogis, they are very selfish. They may get a mango, get an apple, or whatever, give somebody. What are they doing, in fact? So they may acquire many like mystic powers, but they have no real bhakti. So even if they have their knowledge, they don't share with others. Since they reside in secluded places, they are keeping their own vrat. So whereas a bona fide spiritual master, he will make sure that his disciple is progressing. The disciple is in the right direction. He's always advising for all good. So
Yes.
we should also study in this Srimad Bhagavatam in the association of other devotees, like regularly. We should start from the beginning. As we know, some people also jump to the 10th canto, reading the first canto unread. And we understand also what we are studying, and we don't jump only go back and what Krishna was doing. Krishna was doing the 10th canto, so people are doing the Rasa Leela. You see so many videos
Yes.
on YouTube, one man in the middle, so many women around. What are they doing? So that's what we should guard against all these people. And the yogis, they are no good because they do for themselves. Also, when the yogis, they get to perfection, they go to the Brahman realization of the Lord, on the effulgence of the Lord. And in the Brahman, it's empty. They have no connection, but they have the heart, they have the soul, which is looking for a relationship with the Lord. And they have to come back to this material world again.
Yeah.
So, whereas devotees, we strive to reach Krishna. Hare
Yeah.
Krishna, Prabhuji, that's my realization. Hari Bol.
Thank you very much. That was very, very nice and very kind of you to speak like that. It's just like we now have the month of Damodar. We can recite the Damodaraskan, we can offer the Diwa, we can beg. I mean, look at Mother Yashoda. She was completely bewildered by the whole scene, by what was going on. She just grab another piece of rope, tie it. It's 2 inches too short. Another piece of rope, another 2 meters of rope, still 2 inches too short. Till finally, Krishna, out of his love, out of pure love, he saw, my mother is bewildered, my mother is stressed. I don't want her to have any of the more. So he gave her the Shakti to tie the Supreme Lord. How is it possible to tie the Supreme Lord? It's impossible. But because of his mercy. So this is what we beg for. We beg for his mercy, that he will bestow some mercy on us. And this way, we just finish this life. Just give this one life to Krishna. Finish it. It's enough. It's enough. There used to be a slogan when I lived in a temple in Germany. There was an election going on, and they had posters all over from the opposition party. And they used big, huge letters all over the street, everywhere you go. Genug is genug. Enough is enough. And it's a fact. Enough is enough. No more. No more this material world. Get out. This is the way. This is the key. And we just go for it. Jai, thank you very much. Thank you for your
Thank
comment.
you. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Mataji, for that comment. Can I request Prashanatma Prabhu, are you able to close this session today for us? Hare Krishna. Okay, maybe he's not in a good network. I can close this. Yes, Prabhuji, we can hear you now. Prashanatma Prabhu.
Sorry. I usually listen. I keep my phone down, so it takes some time to get it done. But thank you so much, Prabhu, for the wonderful class. As
Jai.
always, very inspiring. Than but pronounced. Because of time, I won't speak too much, though I'm also not qualified even to say so much about you, Prabhu. But thank you for giving your valuable time and for sharing with us so much information, so much knowledge, and for the devotees also contributing, sharing ideas. I think this is what moves us forward, especially in this month, because now the results get multiplied even more and more. And yeah, so I'd request all the devotees to please unmute and chant the Hare Krishna mantra in glorification of His grace, Vidura Prabhu. And in appreciation of the devotees assembled. So
Hare
we just
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Hare Rama, Rama
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Thank you, Prabhupada, Kripa Sindhu, Patitanam, Vaishnavyo, Namo Namaha,
Namo Namaha.
Jai,
Prabhupada ki.
Hari
Thank you,
Hari
Prabhuji.
Bol, Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Good
very
night.
much, Prabhuji. Hare
Good
Krishna.
night. Good night.
Good night.
Hare Krishna.